Howdy, boys and girls. Thanks for joining me once again. We're talking about the parables of Jesus in these Bible drills. And in this particular episode, we want to talk about two of Jesus' shortest parables. Sometimes Jesus tells kind of long stories. Think about the parable of the prodigal son. But sometimes he tells just really short little stories. And in fact, these little stories, two parables, only take up 3 verses. In Matthew chapter 13, verses 44, 45, and 46, Jesus tells some short parables to describe the kingdom of God. Now, the kingdom of God is a big deal. That means being a part of God's family, being under the reign and the rule of King Jesus. That's a big idea, but Jesus wanted to simplify that and help us to get a really important point. And so he tells these little short parables, the parable of the hidden treasure and the parable of the pearl of great value. And let's see what we can learn from those parables. The first is about this treasure. Jesus says that God's kingdom is like a treasure. Think about a treasure box and what kinds of things are inside of a treasure box. He says it's like a treasure that's been hidden in a field. So imagine here's this treasure that someone long ago buried in a field, and there it sits day after day after day. It's just there in the field. There's no telling how many people walked right by it. However, one day somebody does notice that treasure. And when that man finds that treasure, he's determined to do something about it. He's determined to get that treasure and find what's inside that treasure box. And he finds out that the treasure is so great, that it's so amazing, it's so wonderful what he sees inside that treasure box, that he ends up covering it back up, putting the dirt back over top of it, so that he can then go and sell everything that he has. And imagine that. Can you even imagine selling everything that you have? All of your clothes, your house, all of your stuff, your games, everything. He sold everything that he had. Why? Well, he did that so that he could go and buy that field. Remember, the treasure was in a field. He didn't own the field. So he goes and buys the field, and once he owns the field, he can then obtain the treasure. And in fact, Jesus says in his joy, he obtains that treasure. What Jesus is saying here is he's saying that that's what God's kingdom is like. Sometimes people just stumble upon the truth when they learn about Christ, when they learn some things from the Bible, when they learn about salvation. But when they learn it, when they find that out, they're so excited. They're so joyful. They're willing to give up everything in order to have the salvation that comes through Jesus and to be a part of the church. They want that. They want the treasure. Now, in case we didn't get that idea on the first parable, Jesus kind of doubles down and tells another one about valuable things. He says God's kingdom is also like a merchant who went out searching for fine pearls. All right, so in the first parable, the guy just kind of accidentally stumbled upon the treasure. In this parable, though, we've got a man who's looking for treasure. He's looking for fine pearls. He's searching for it. And when he finds that one pearl that is of great value, that's just so costly, it's amazing, it's beautiful, it has such value to it. When he finds that pearl, he goes as well. And he sells everything that he has, sells all of his clothes and his cars and his house and all of the fine, beautiful things that he owns. He's willing to give all of that up. He's willing to sell every single bit of it. He's willing to give it all up so that he could go and he could obtain that one great pearl. Can you imagine that? Selling everything that you have for just one thing, for just one little pearl. Boy, that pearl better be really valuable if I'm going to sell everything that I've got in order to get it. Well, Jesus says that's the way it is with the kingdom of God. Jesus wants us to be willing to give up anything and everything so that we can have that treasure. And what's the treasure? It's the treasure of being a Christian. Living the Christian life, living for Jesus, being a part of His church, being a part of the kingdom of God. Man, that's just so much more valuable than anything that this world has to offer. And we need to be willing, we need to be ready to give up whatever it takes so that we can have that. Because ultimately, you know where that treasure leads, don't you? That treasure leads to heaven. And I want to go there, and I know that you do too. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time.